with Trophy with Rocket League, what we're trying to do here is to create basically an all-in-one platform for continuous improvement in the game. Check 1, 2. Okay, I think my microphone is going to occasionally. 1 second. I can fix this. My microphone is going to occasionally disconnect on this. So, okay, I think you should still be able to hear me, and that should have fixed the issue. Sorry about that. With Trophy with Rocket League, as I said, we're trying to make a platform that allows for sort of continuous improvement in the game, and we really want to use and leverage AI technology in order to do that. So what we want to look at is basically how people improve at Rocket League, what they want to focus on, and how and where they get stuck in the game. And we want to create a platform of tools that really helps them break out from that. It makes training more interesting, more interactive, more fun, less of a solo activity. For a long time, training in Rocket League really took the form of just doing in-game training packs. We want to make it more social, shareable, and we just want to basically give people tools to get better faster is kind of a key phrase around Trophy. And we do that by a number of means right now. So we do have AI-based mechanic lessons. We have a suite of training games, and we have, as I'm about to demonstrate for you, we have an analysis product, a post-match game analysis. We also take stats from that game analysis and can deliver them via in-game overlays. And so all of this combines into sort of this platform that we're looking to continue expanding and learn more from folks like yourselves, the coaches and the learners in the Rocket League help community. What we can do to basically cater to everyone who wants to learn and get better at Rocket League. And that could be potentially a silver rank player who wants to break into gold. That could hopefully be a grand champ player who wants to break into SSL. It's tough to cater to all those people at once. That's not necessarily a challenge we're trying to figure out all at once, but we really want to hone in on the types of people who are willing to use a software like this, and what are they? Are they more of that platinum diamond rank? Are they more of that grand champ to SSL level? And we really want to build features that cater to them. And that's why we really appreciate folks like yourselves joining us here for these types of events to learn about what we're doing. And again, for those just joining, I see a few more people joining in, so hello. I'm quickly going to recap that we are recording this, and everyone's welcome to ask questions. Please chat and use that feature, but also feel free to raise your hand, and Madison, our moderator, could potentially have you up on stage. Now, you will be a part of the recording if you do come up on stage. So that is my spiel. Nice to see everybody again. Thanks for joining us. And let's get into it here. So I quickly gave you the background on Trophy. Going to switch scenes here. Okay, so everybody hopefully should be able to see my screen now and see our analysis dashboard. Somebody please shout at me if you can't see what I'm seeing. But I actually won't even start here. I'm actually going to start in the Trophy app. Let's jump back here. So for those who aren't familiar, maybe there's people who have joined us who haven't even opened the Trophy app yet. This is what you're going to see when you install it on your PC and open it up. So as I said off the top, there's a whole bunch of products and services for sim racers. Obviously, we are here to talk about Rocket League. Training Paths is where you go to do our AI mechanic lessons and games, and Training Paths basically lays it out in a branching sort of a skill tree-like format. All Mechanics is essentially all the same content, but just laid out for you to access whatever you want when you want, rather than going through this sort of structured training path route. Now, we will have different events down the road. We can do this potentially weekly if people are interested and want to see more. And we can talk about what you would like to see. If we want to jump into those AI mechanic lessons and games in the next one, we certainly can. We can talk about the overlays feature I mentioned, but today we are going to talk about this one here, and that's AI game analysis. So when you click this, you get a little sneak peek of the type of analysis you're going to see. game analysis is essentially a deep dive, I would say, into the stats and the insights that you can gain out of those stats from the game that you just played, or any number of games from a series of games that you've played in the past day, week, month, what have you. Those stats are happening all the time in the game, and to a certain extent, you get the most basic ones, i.e., how many times you scored, how many assists you got, based on Rocket League's definition of an assist. You get how many shots on goal. These are like the most basic sort of game highlights ones. But there are all these very deep statistical insights that you can pull out of a Rocket League game, and really wanted to offer up kind of a pretty deep ocean. Nice to see you. A deep ocean of stats here for people to really sink their teeth into if they're interested. And at the same time, we also are always trying to sort of wrap that all up for people that aren't that interested in going that deep and learning about, stats from their game, and sort of give them the high level insights as to what they can take away in order to do better and move forward with these stats and use them to make actionable insights into their gameplay. So the way this works from a technical perspective is you play a Rocket League match, you have trophy running in the background, you just leave it in the background, and you go ahead and play any number of matches. There are settings down here in the settings menu. They are auto on by default. So even if you don't go to the settings menu and mess with it, these settings should be on as soon as you install the app. And what those settings do will allow you to auto save your replay. All of our statistical analysis is based on your replay file, and it's pulled out of your replay file by basically parsing, meaning picking it apart for all of its relevant data points. And there, by the way, I should mention there are several members of our data science team here, Kyle and Scott specifically, aka Mega Munch. Thank you for being here. And these are the guys that built this. So please, I'm showing it off here, but these guys are the ones for creating the engine of everything that you see here. So please, if you have questions from a technical standpoint, while they're here, they're the perfect ones to answer those. And forgive me to both those guys if I do a poor job summarizing what it is we built. But basically together we've created this, and we intend to sort of keep pushing what we can do with it. So going back to what I was saying, you play a game, your replay file is auto-saved. It is auto-uploaded to the cloud. It is parsed and pulled apart for its relevant data. And then that data is virtually instantaneously, this happens very fast, I'm talking maybe a few seconds max. This data is then presented via this web app. So if you click Launch Analysis, you view your results on the web app. That's going to take you straight to, this is launching twice here because I've already opened this, but oh my, sorry. Let me do that again. This will take you straight into the web app, apologies. And that's going to show you your most recent results. Now, I haven't actually played Rocket League super recently, so this is, I think, from a couple of days ago, this game. I should have played a game today, but I was mostly busy. So as you see, most of the stats sort of populate instantaneously. The stats are already there, and then what you see also pop up and take maybe a couple more seconds to load is this is your overview report. So you quickly have a summary of the match. This was a very good match. Apparently a YouTuber that I was teamed up with. Go give him a like and subscribe. But yeah, we had a good win, 6-2. We dominated the match. And then you have your overview report. And basically this is saying, yeah, you did very well. An offensive powerhouse, scoring 3 out of 6 goals. That's half there. Tight defense. And it basically gives you these summary points for like things to take away these are all pretty positive because it was a good win. It seems like the AI was fairly happy with the result, but it's not afraid to tell you when you didn't do that well and when you have things that you need to work on. The AI seems to like what I did in this game generally. I should step back and quickly give you a higher level explanation of how this dashboard works. So here we're on the overview tab right here. You have this series of tabs that then navigates to the different stat categories. And that is basically going to take you into any area of stats that you're super keen on drilling down into. Up here, of course, you have select player. That's me, David Newman. I'm Nooms on PC. Here, and this is fairly important as a concept, you have this rank drop down. And this is currently a self-selection. And what it is you want to input your rank. You could theoretically put a higher rank than yours as well if you wanted to. But the reason you want to input this is as soon as you do, you see this toggle here that says show rank averages. So we will build your stats and your results and compare them to the average values of players at X rank, any given rank. And that's not just diamond, it's down to like diamond 2, diamond 3. We don't quite go into like division 1, 2, 3, 4. It didn't feel that we needed to go that fine of detail. But when you enter this, your results will instantly be then compared to what our models feel like a typical result is for a diamond 2 player and how you're comparing against that norm. Are you above average? Are you below average? And all these different, and all of these rank averages, which are what your stats will be compared to. Here I had 4 shots on goal in this particular game. Whereas the rank average for diamond 2 players, that's the key point, is about 3.3. Obviously, you can't get 3.3 shots in a game, but that's the average value over many, many hundreds, if not thousands, of diamond 2 games and players that have been analyzed. The rank average of goals is just 1.46. So about 1.5 goals is the average, whereas I got 3 in this game. Now, again, these are the most basic stats, but you'll see how this kind of gets really interesting when you get into some deeper level statistics. So that's how the rank dropdown works. You want to set your rank, or even the reason I said you could go a little bit higher is because that could almost give you a challenge, something to aspire to, something to compare yourself to, even the higher ranks just above you or just a couple above you that you may be looking to break into. So it could be interesting insights you get from actually saying, hey, I'm diamond 2, but I really want to be a champ player. I want to break into that champ level. And by comparing myself to champ stats, I'm actually maybe giving myself that harder of a task to measure up. So it's an interesting strategy if you want to go that way. Our recommendation is, at least to start, just put in your rank. And then you can compare to the crowds at your rank and just see what insights you can take away. And again, as I said, this is a deep dive. We give you many different stats. Here's some quick overview stats. Again, we are in the overview section. Here's just your goals, shots, saves, and this is broken down by team. So these are team stats. This is pretty much the same area. This is a game breakdown, but it shows you which team was like more outweighted within the averages. So you can see that blue team won the game in pretty strong fashion, and you can see that a bunch of the stats actually outweighted. Interestingly, the red team, not the red team, but the opponent team, I should say, did have more shots on goal than us, but obviously we managed to weather the storm and make our shots on goal more effective. So I'm going to move on from this. This is your overview. You have your summary here, and this is based on our AI models. And so this is a key piece where, and we want to get this better and better and make it more and more useful to players, is that we don't just offer stats. We do have AI models look at the stats and start to build a summary and a takeaway and start to speak to you like a coach would. In this case, a coach probably wouldn't be as glowingly positive, I might say, but hey, I got lucky on the game we looked at. It was a good game. So let's move on to the next category. So here's positioning. Positioning, I would say, is very useful to know if you are spending an unusual amount of time in certain areas of the field. The very most simple one is time in each half and time in each third. And this is, of course, looking in particular at this one game, this 6-2 game that I'm talking about. You can always change what match you're looking at from this select match dashboard, which can pull up any number of historical games I have. Oh, I've been on a bit of a win streak. That's not bad. Cool. So this stats section over here on the left-hand nav is all for singular games. Later, we'll talk about trends. That's where you can see longer-term insights over multiple games. And then after that, we'll go down to this insights section, which is our newest section and one that we're still working on, which kind of packages up everything into some really boiled down tight takeaways. So we're on stats, which is single game, trends multi-game, and then insights, your key takeaways. So time in each half for us was, the defensive half for me personally was actually fairly outweighted. Now the rank averages for this, as you see, it follows the general trend of rank average. And so I would say I played a little bit extra defensive. To my mind, that makes sense because we were up 6-2 or we got to 6-2. So we were probably content to just let the game play out. A key thing here is that all of these stats are just giving you values. They are summarized and they are analyzed to a certain extent, but there's also a certain extent that you can take your own takeaways from these, right? There may be reasoning at any point that you played a super defensive game. Maybe your teammate was incredibly offensive and you wanted to counteract that. That's very natural. This is to a certain extent a challenge, but certainly one we're looking to take on here at Trophy is that pure stats in Rocket League are often very contextual. There's a reasoning behind them or some logic as to why you were playing one way. But what might be interesting is to start observing if these numbers are kind of outweighted on one side, not just on one game, but on multiple games. And then eventually that's what you can use the trends report to say, look, over your last 10 games, you're still about 10% over the rank average. You can start to form a bit of a picture that says, I might be a pretty defensive player. I might be spending maybe a bit too much time in the defensive half. I need to push out more. So there's halves. There's the exact same stats for thirds. Or you can say, generally, the shape that I formed, which was highest on defensive, somewhere in the middle on the neutral third, and then spent the least time in the offensive third, was pretty much in line. But I was a little higher on defensive in particular. And that's, again, probably due to the fact that we were doing very well in the game and we were very happy to just turtle up, play defensive, and carry on and get the W. Here's the same stats to a certain extent, just compared to rank average. So the rank average here is on the outside, and my values are on the inside. As you can see, mine is a little bit more blue than the rank average, blue being the defensive half. Time in each third, same thing. Once again, mine is a little bit more blue, which is a little bit higher on defense. So in this game, I can say, yeah, that makes sense. That's because we were protecting our lead. Over the long term, I might say, hey, this is always high. I'm actually seeing a trend in my gameplay that I'm a little too defensive. And let's actually go up to our positioning report summary here, defensive play. You exceeded expectations with this amount of time in the defensive half, outperforming most at your rank. So the AI generally in this game is satisfied that this is effective defensive coverage. And it's actually highlighting the fact that I was also contributing to goals. So it's saying hey, you weren't just playing defense, and that's good. That's a good sign that high on defense but not contributing to offense may actually be a problem. Being high on defense but also getting the win and contributing to a few goals scored probably means that you had the right balance of play. Time spent far from each teammate and far from each opponent is kind of interesting in this sense. So from my teammate, I had 17% of time far from each teammate. And if you're ever curious about what a stat means, you can always hit this question mark. Here's a bit of context that sort of specifies exactly what we're talking about here. You spent percentage of time you spent at least 5,000 UU. Okay, here's a good question. And what is a UU? That's an Unreal Unit. That is essentially people might be familiar with this if they've looked at other Rocket League stats, but maybe not. A UU, or an Unreal Unit, is essentially an imaginary video game measure of distance that is particular and fine-grained enough to measure the types of distances that you cover in Rocket League. If you describe something in feet or inches, I don't know if anybody plays Rocket League and thinks, oh, my teammate is 16 feet ahead of me. We talk about this kind of stuff all the time in American football or other sports, but it's not really something in our experience that Rocket League players think about. To be fair, I don't think a lot of Rocket League players think in UU either. But we looked at other similar offerings from something like ball chasing, which uses the same metrics. And we wanted to be in line with that. So let's move on. There's a lot of categories to talk about. I probably need to move a bit quicker here. I'm going to bore everyone. That's positioning. Tactics is, I think, comes down to a lot of decision making that you do in the game. And what I folks, my headset mic keeps thinking that I don't know, idle or something. So it keeps disconnecting me occasionally. Apologies about that. In tactics, your decision making basically comes down to how much time were you spending going towards the ball, far from the ball, towards your teammates, close to your teammates. One thing that we don't really have yet, and admittedly it is a very important concept in Rocket League, is rotations. And truthfully, we don't yet have a really tight moment-to-moment system of measuring, hey, what was the rotational pattern that you were following? Because that is quite complicated. It is something we're looking at for sure. So keep an eye out. But right now, these tactical decisions in tactics are probably the closest thing we have to a bit of a vision of rotations. And to that sense, you can see how often I was moving towards the ball. I spent less time moving towards the ball than the average at my rank. I spent more time moving away from the ball than the average at my rank. So there's me at 33%. There's my rank average at 33%. Or sorry, 30.6%, my mistake. So not terribly off, but again, maybe an interesting insight if you start to see this repeatedly, saying, wow, I spend a lot of time running away from the ball and not enough time moving towards it. That is probably a sign of some tactical decision making that might need some work. You may want to make more decisions to rotate and enter the play and attack that ball a little bit more. You might be playing a little bit passive. The average distance to the ball, again, the yellow is kind of the key visual indicator of the rank average. So I was actually at a higher distance to the ball than the rank average by a decent amount. I spent more time at a farther distance this game from the ball than rank averages in general. Again, I think we were playing safe. I think there's reasonings for this, but very interesting if you start to draw insights over watching this over the course of many games. Time spent moving away from each teammate, time spent moving towards each opponent. It's basically giving you all this insight into how and when did you stick close to opponents, how and when did you stay far apart, teammates, and the ball. And that can give you this sort of vision of your connectedness, is a term I've heard it used as, of how closely connected are you staying with your teammates? Because if you're most of the distance of the field away, then you are fairly disconnected from them in the sense of you are not going to be able to quickly, actively engage with them and help them in support of either a defensive or offensive play. So let's move on to aerials. Aerials, admittedly for me, I don't know if Coach Cato is here. He's not right here. He recently watched one of my replays and was grilling my aerials for my level. He said my aerials are not up to par for a a diamond player. That's fair. So yeah, trying to do some homework there. I should note too, again, we're not going to demonstrate it here, but a lot of these concepts, we do have training modules in the Trophy app, i.e. training lessons, games, etc., that can help you get this. So if you're seeing aerial stats here that you see need work, you can go play an aerial training game on the Trophy app, of which we have a bunch. We have different levels they unlock. So again, we're going to keep it to analysis here today, but there is sort of a bigger ecosystem of training that you can make this just one part of. Going to do a time check to see how I'm doing. Okay. So aerials, again, you have how much time you spent doing a thing versus the rank average. Total in air wasn't that high, but the rank average is not that high. So honestly, it looks to me like the average diamond player doesn't spend that much time in the air anyhow. And so I wasn't that far off. A huge amount of time below the crossbar. These are just different ways of saying, where were you in terms of your height? This one's interesting. The average airspeed This one's quite interesting, actually. Average airspeed shows me that when I was doing aerials, they generally were significantly slower by a decent amount than the average Diamond 2 player. That might tell me something about boosting before I launch, being more direct in my launches. I know I'm guilty of having poorly aimed aerial launches and then doing a lot of time adjusting my trajectory in the air, something that I'm trying to work on. And that is probably contributing to me having slower aerials overall, because anytime you're kind of wavering in the air like that, you're losing airspeed rather than gaining direct air acceleration. I think that one's quite interesting for me and something that I'm going to try to focus on, try to drive those numbers up to my rank average and hopefully beyond. I would imagine, let's just do an experiment here. The rank average is about 1,449 for Diamond 2. If I went to Champion 2, this might take a second, 1,493. So this is a stat that I would imagine you can just see a general upward progression on rank to rank. Every rank you go up, I bet that average airspeed just cranks up a little bit more. Let's go back to Diamond 2 here. Because people just get faster, more confident, the play gets more aggressive. It gets, it's just the aerial competence just goes higher, the higher your rank. Let's jump over to defense. Defense is one that I played a lot of in this game, so positioning is also looked at. Time spent near the net was actually quite a bit higher than the rank average. I'm going to right now take that as a good thing. If it was way outweighted and high and I lost the game, that's actually probably a terrible thing. In this game, the fact that we were winning again, ultimately by 4 goals, and I spent a lot of time holding it down at the net compared to rank average, is I'm going to take that one as a positive. I think that's probably the right strategic decision. These ones are interesting. We actually built a custom formula for when you may be classified as needed at the back post, and then how much of that time you were at the back post. Again, this is some custom baked stat formulas that we made for basically if the ball is heading towards your net, there's attackers somewhere in the zone that could make a play. There's basically a series of yes/no statements, like balls moving towards you at such and such distance from your goal. There's a teammate, or sorry, an opponent within such and such distance. The opponent is driving in a direction that could potentially score on you. You are classified as being needed at the back post. I was classified as being needed at the back post, interestingly, slightly more than my rank average. That's probably because the other team took a bunch of extra shots on goal than we did. Of that time, the back post coverage that I had was only 4%. Still doesn't look great. When you compare it to the rank averages, is only 2.5%. It's actually not bad. It's possible we're maybe a little strict into what we're defining as back post coverage. We can always look at that and adjust these types of stats. But basically, of the time I was needed at the back post, which was 9% of the match, 4% of that time I was there. 4% of the match, i.e., a little under half of the time I was needed at the back post, is how that one works. Kind of cool. Movement essentially boils down to how fast and efficiently you're moving around the field. This is a huge one, of course. Average speed, just ground speed. How quickly are you moving? And as you can see, and this is one that the AI yells at me a lot, I am generally a slow player. Compared to rank average, I'm just not at the average speed. I have not been quite a bit. So the AI is constantly drilling into me. You need to move a bit faster, just faster movement, keep it moving, less pausing, less hesitancy, and just get around the field faster, get to the play or get away from the play quicker and more effectively. You actually see a breakdown of what speeds you are at. So low speed, again, you can get some info as to what defines these categories. 0 speed is, of course, 0. Slow is from here. Boost speed is when you're either, of course, boosting or going as fast as you would be if you were boosting. And then we all know supersonic. And, of course, there's max speed, which is the max speed. And you can compare all of these to rank average right off the bat. Yeah, I see I'm outweighted on low speed. So just giving you a sense of what insights you can get. A little bit slow and a fair bit not enough time at boost speed. I'm lower on everything outside of low speed, i.e. boost speed, supersonic, and maximum speed. You can see the same info just broken down in this kind of radar chart. I'm not terribly off here, but you can tell that, low speed is outweighted. The rest are underweighted. Time spent reversing, throttling. How much total number of power slides is here, because that's also a movement effectiveness measure. Average power slide duration is something I've been told that coaches will often look at as a key piece, that if it's lower is actually better, in the sense of I'm happy with this stat because I'm lower than rank average, because it is actually best practice to tap power slide and make it sort of a controlled continuous tap rather than one long one. Occasionally you want to do one long one, but most of the time tapping is the most effective use, and having it be higher than rank average if you are successfully tapping it is a good thing. I spent less time upside down than the average person at my rank. I'll take that as a positive. These ones are great. This is boost stats, and this gives you a very thorough picture of what you did with boost and how you interacted with boost pads. I collected more small pads than the average person at my rank, but less big pads by far. Again, what you want to make of this is up to you. I would say a coach might say that's probably a positive sign. Collecting boost pads effectively by moving through small pads is generally going to be a better long-term strategy than constantly feeling the need to fill up at big pads. Of course, there's times when you need those big pads, and it makes sense to get them if you're stealing or you need a close to full fill up. That's what you want to do. Interesting that I'm this far off the number of big pads and fairly above the number of small pads. And we'll get more into some boost insights in a second. That is going to be kind of interesting to show you, and I think you'll like. So small, big pads, boost pickups. This is broken down into the rank average by position on the field. In the blue half, which was our half, I was lower in terms of big boosts. I was lower on all fronts, actually, which lines up with this, of course. And the same thing, small pads by zone. I was way, way higher on small pads in the defensive half. That's interesting. I spent a lot of time doing those circular and swinging around the small pad paths in my defensive zone specifically. Time at max boost, big pads in the orange half, small pads in the orange half. You see that the list just goes on as far as like what you can dive into here. Again, the deep dive is how we describe this. Overfill is interesting. This is how much boost you got on top of what you actually needed. This is huge. I'm not going to try to toot my own horn. This is one game, of course. But in this case, I'm very happy with the fact that I was much lower in terms of the amount of boost I collected that I didn't need, ultimately. And that, again, is probably coming down to people at my rank generally still over-prioritizing those big pads. They're going to get those big pads when they're at 50 boost, and they're wasting 50 boost immediately upon doing it. Sure, it may make sense still to grab the big pad if you get the chance, but over-prioritizing those chances could actually take you out of a play, make you less effective of a member of the team in that moment, and you might get scored on because of it. So, again, lots of insights that you can dive into and pick apart here. This one's very cool because it's highly visual and it's quite different from what we've looked at. So we're very excited to show you some of this stuff. This one here is the boost heat map. So I don't know how many people are familiar with heat map concept, but essentially hotter is better, or hotter equals you did something more. And you can see immediately that I was heavily involved in central attacks on the field here. You can see that because these small pads, which are represented here right up the middle of the field. So you can tell by this that I was on the blue team. The text is blue. Here's my blue defensive half. You can see that I spent a lot of time driving on the center line in our half, whether or not that's rotating back towards our net or out towards the opponent to support an offensive play. That could be both. They would both trigger this as being part of the heat map. Over here, you have the small pads, and you see that, in particular, I seem to favor this big pad, and it seems that I actually tend to rotate back, at least in this game, and you can view it over, multiple games, of course, that I tend to favor this side of the field, maybe grab big boost here, maybe rotate back here towards the net, following this path. And you can see how those shapes really compare to other players. This player, Egyptian, was, I think, probably too hungry for this big boost over here. That's what I see when I look at this. Say this player probably over prioritizes just zipping over to their defensive corner to grab big boost. That might also be because they felt under pressure by us scoring 6 goals in this game. So, we were putting good pressure on. So everything might have that contextual reasoning behind it. But it's very interesting insights to see that this orange teammate, the opponent, was heavily picking up big boosts, whereas this other opponent, Quinton, or whatever his name is, was all over the field. This is a very healthy mix of boosts. This player was just nowhere in particular for any long amount of time. This player was really equal opportunity in terms of zipping around the field, even into our zone, to pick up our boosts a fair amount. Whereas you see on our team, we weren't doing that much stealing of boosts. Muskie did a bit better of a job stealing this big boost. So interesting takeaways. I should note that this particular one, along with a couple of other stats we've looked at here, I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to quickly shout out this in-game overlays feature, which is fairly new to Trophy. This boost heat map, for example, along with some other key stats, you can have these appear on screen as the scoreboard, as the match ends and the scoreboard appears on screen. You can have these pop up via overlay, and you can get this insight into the match you just played instantaneously. So you always have it accessible after the fact at any point here on the web app, the analysis site. But the in-game overlays feature gives it to you right away. And you can look at that for about 10 seconds, take away what you will, and then start your next match as normal without leaving the game, without needing to alt-tab to anything. You're playing Rocket League, and that pops up as soon as the match is over. It auto-hides as soon as the next match begins. And it's pretty powerful. And again, that's a fairly new feature. I see some comments. Is there any questions? I know I tend to just monologue and go on. Is there any questions before we go further that anybody wants to join the stage to ask? Or, yep, Madison can invite someone to speak. Please do. If anyone's interested, happy to have anyone up on stage to ask questions about this or any of the many stats we just looked at.
Yeah, hey, I noticed that
All
you
good
guys
for
didn't
now.
update.
I'll keep talking. Oh, hey there.
Yeah, I noticed you guys didn't update to fix the match download
Sorry,
lagging.
give me 1 second. I can fix this. I can't hear you right now.
It's also in chat.
1 moment. I think my output device was wrong. Can you speak again?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Hey there. I can hear you now. Sorry about that.
All right, cool.
My bad.
I noticed that the download process is working a lot better after each game. Is the overlay working good too?
Yeah, so we've been working on a couple of fronts. One that our auto save process that gets that replay, there's new updates to that have come out virtually every week, and we've been sort of improving the efficiency of it, how quickly it fires, how reliably it fires. So it works based on template matching, image matching. So it basically is looking for the save replay button on screen. As soon as it sees it, it interacts with it and grabs that replay file. And that has become much more reliable. Then as far as the overlays, we had a test run where we changed the event by which they hide. So they appear when the scoreboard comes up, as I said. We had changed the event to hide from that scoreboard disappearing to try to make it work with the next match starting, just to get a few extra seconds where they showed up. And we actually found that that wasn't working that well, and we ran into exactly what we didn't want to run into, which was sometimes those overlays were sticking around on screen when the next match would start. And that's obviously that's a no-go for us. We don't want our overlays like causing anybody to like rage quit them and be distracted from their match for those first few seconds. So we did change that back. So in my opinion, I think they're working pretty well. I think there has been the occasional case where people have had the overlays pop up, but the data hasn't actually loaded in. And we're always, happy to look at those cases. If they're happening, let us know, because what we'll do is we'll look at your log files. That just means we'll look at a file off your folder structure that will tell us any error logs that popped up for why those overlays didn't show up. And then we can usually fire out a new update if we find the fix fairly quickly for that auto upload and overlay process. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I was just wondering if I should try them again, but I think I will and see how it goes.
Oh, cool. Please do. Yeah, we have been making updates. We've also been making under the hood updates to performance. There's been some, again, another thing that's a big no-go for us when we hear it, we want to fix it immediately, is Trophy running in the background causing any performance stuttering or issues with Rocket League. That was admittedly happening, and we have made updates that we're hearing has really helped with that, and we're trying to, nip it in the bud.
Yeah, I noticed the replay one, so that's greatly appreciated. But, awesome. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Yeah, thanks for the question. Give it another try, and please let me know. Let the team know. We're always happy to hear if the improvements that we're making are working or are not working, because we'll keep going until they do work for sure. We want to fix any of those issues that people are having. 100%. Thanks for the question. So we showed the boost heat maps. Here is a very key heat map feature, and that's boost chains. And I think this is a feature that for the power that it gives you, it's maybe we're not doing enough to highlight it. We'll work on that, but clicking this boost chains button and showing this feature is really something that you can take a lot of insights from. So boost chains, what are we talking about here? This is how effectively you are chaining together boost pickups, meaning picking them up in quick succession, a few seconds apart. This is a really effective way to move around the field. Higher level players will probably be pretty familiar with this, but lower level players, sometimes this might be a new concept to them. Chaining boost pads, specifically small boost pads, is a really effective way to be moving around the field while also consistently refilling that boost amount so that you're making the most out of your movement. It's a way more efficient way to stay aggressive because you're constantly refilling your boost. And Rocket League players will tell you, like, your boost meter is essentially like your ability meter. Being out of boost is like being out of options in Rocket League, and that's a huge detriment to your game. The more you can travel around the field while also filling up any boost that you're missing, the more options you're going to have to effectively attack the ball or clear the ball on defense. Here, what you see is I did 24 total boost chains, but the AI model is immediately going to highlight some key chains that sort of coaches will often highlight. This is a very common coaching concept that Replay Review will highlight, is that certain chains around the field can be really effective. So the core paths here are what we're talking about. So the one that I did was graded excellent on was the center lane. Here you see, as soon as I clicked that, I had 6 separate instances, of following this chain. And of that, only 2 of them were more than 2 pads. But either way, there was a pretty effective, and you also saw that from my boost heat map, that I tended to favor this center lane, just, attacking or rotating to defense via the center of the field and then spinning in. Or another one is the oval path. So that, as you can see, I think this paints a pretty clear picture of a rotation, either defensive or offensive, that is sort of following this outer oval along the field. This is a very effective way to travel. And this is something, again, like a higher level player is going to be familiar with this, but they're not going to have the tool to immediately be able to highlight this for them without Trophy. We don't know of anyone who's offered this sort of insight, particularly on chained boosts. And we want to do more and more of this sort of custom. How can we draw more and more better insights out of the stats that we're giving you? And this boost chains one is a really interesting one. Again, so higher level players might be aware, but lower level players, you look at a plat level player, they might still not be thinking of this at all. And we can highlight when they're not doing this enough. Here it's saying, hey, you did a pretty good job on these ones, but there are boost paths here that maybe you're not utilizing at all. Here it's telling me one. Here, I'm not using this idea of this heart path. So this would be effective for like a fast rotation in when you're sort of maybe attacked. Let's say you're coming up this right side of the field. You've attacked the net. Your part of the play is done and you're rotating out. But if you have ball cam on, you're going to be able to rotate out and see that there's something very promising maybe happening at the net, and you don't want to, it's foolish for you to just bail on the play, go back to defense, but you can actually do a quick turn, follow this, and then you're in an aggressive position to attack the net. Some cool insight you can get from that. And you can really, you can do a lot here. You can show the heat map for all chains. This currently, it only highlights the ones that you did well, but you can return to center lane. You can deactivate this. You can look at only offensive or defensive. So this is key. If you say all, you basically are looking at how much you use this center lane path. If you click this, you can see how many times did you use it to attack. If you click this, which is 4 out of the 6, out of this, you can see how many times did you use it to rotate onto defense, which is 2 out of the 6. Very cool insights here. And you can look at this for other players as well. This is always something you can see for yourself, but I'm like, okay, I did this. What about my teammate? What did they do? Oh, kind of different. They used the overland, the center lane, sure, but 3 in a row midfield. Interesting. Yeah, so they kind of had this interesting path where they tended to break away from the center path in the midfield. And that was something that they favored. Okay, moving on. I could talk about these stats all day. The final one is playstyles, and this is also very visual, very cool, and this is another one that you can get via in-game overlay. This one I love. Awesome to hear that. That's sweet. I'm glad you enjoy this, and we want to keep sort of making this better as much as we can. Here you have basically, this spider plot, this sort of instant blob view, I'll call it, of where do you tend to pull away in certain areas of your game, and where do you have a lot of room to improve in areas of your game. I'm not surprised to see that my aerial is actually really bad. My defense, at least in this particular game, was actually really good, but I wasn't rotating a lot. And again, maybe that was purposeful. Maybe I was just chilling on defense, but even so, rotation is, no matter what the score of the game is, rotation's part of the name of the game in Rocket League. So something that I might look at here. And you can always click this tell me more to get, so I got right. It gave me the turtle, which is actually a term that I'd used earlier about my play in this game. So there you go. So the AI called me a turtle, and it's telling me that I was very passive, a stay-at-home role. There you go. I mean, I was staying at home to defend our 6-2 goal lead. I'll defend myself here because I'm so defensive. But this is kind of cool. This is fun. I mean, we feel very shareable, something that you might be interested to see every game. Like, oh, what did I come out with? What little label am I going to get here? Did I improve on this area? Maybe aerials? Can I bring this up in the next game to at least this line? Ideally, I'd love to be up here. But you can sort of follow, and each of these are essentially like a custom combination of stats. And there is a formula that any of our data science team, if you're curious, can tell you more about, that looks at how weighted you are in a certain amount of stats that will help us paint this picture of, are you a super aggressive player? Are you high on support, as in you play with your teammates really well? Are you an offensive player? Are you an aggressive player? Offense and aggression, sometimes two different things. Aggression can be very physical, very demo-based. Offense can, of course, be just playing in the opponent's side of the field a lot and putting on that pressure. So there you go. There's the play styles, and that brings us across our top tab of categories. Whew, I'm going to take a drink of water because that was a lot. So thanks for sticking with us, guys. I will take questions very soon. I won't go through each category anymore because we've already done it. What I will say is that once you click this section, now we're getting out of the stats section. And here we have trends. And as you can see, again, this is why I'm not going to repeat it because we've already talked about it. You have these stat categories that are the same as from your stats. Now, you don't have all of them. We don't yet have boost heat maps available for the past 10 games. We don't have your playstyle. We will show you playstyle over 5 games in a moment. But there are a few stat categories that are not here in the trends section. And if there are things that you really want to see added because you're curious to see your boost heat map over 25 games, let us know, please. I cannot stress enough. Please, our team is very communicative. We listen to every piece of feedback. We may not action it immediately because we do have a lot of priorities, but we use hearing from our users as one of our key pieces of prioritizing what we add in here. So with that said, let's quickly look at trends. So there's a different format here. Since we're looking at multiple games, here on this dropdown, you can this will tell you the number of games that it will take into account. So currently, I'm looking at the trends report for my last 5 matches. My last 5 matches, if you recall, I opened up the match dashboard. They were all wins, which is great news for me. But if I was to go further, a win streak here. But then if you go further, you start to filter in some losses. So you can go last 5, last 10, 15, 20, 25, or even the last 50 matches, which gives you this super long view of what your trends are looking like over longer periods of play, which is really interesting. And that's a key piece is so many stats you can maybe try to take away from a single game. Once you see it netted out over a lot of games, a picture really starts to emerge. Here's an interesting one. So we always do a key strength and a key weakness. And we talked about speed for my play. The AI is always, let me jump out of here and explain this a bit more. The AI is telling me speed up my game. And I'm not surprised. It is consistently highlighting the fact that I play slowly on the ground. It's something that I need to work on. And what you can see here is this is the 5 games. Here is my average supersonic speed. And this yellow line, this orange line, again, following that sort of visual code, is the rank average. And you can see that at most, I've only touched the rank average. I've never exceeded it, at least in the last 5 games of supersonic speed. So I am simply not spending enough time at supersonic. And I can take that as a pretty key takeaway, that I'm spending less time at supersonic speed than most players at my rank. I'm likely missing out on crucial opportunities to reach the ball first and make powerful plays. That about sums it up. I need to get faster and I need to spend more time boosting. I need to get in there faster. And that is probably the biggest takeaway I'm working on that I get when I look at my AI. It's, as I said, it's always yelling at me about being faster. Sorry, AI, but I like to go slow and think about what I'm going to do on the field before I get in there. Here you have a lot of other big wins. So some of these stats are labeled as excellent, good, bad. I will say a key piece here, and it's something we've heard from the community a lot, and we absolutely are aware of. We're cognizant of the fact that not all Rocket League stats, it's interesting or even accurate to say, this is good because it's high, this is bad because it's low, or vice versa. So we're working on that, and I promise there will be updates to come with this, that we try to get more contextual here and try to really only communicate the things that we can say confidently are good or bad or neutral because you're doing more or less or not enough of them. We fully realize this. It's a challenge with building this kind of insights into your stats is how can we give you some kind of nuggets of positive reinforcement, some kind of prods towards the negatives that you need to work on, with also, average ground speed being speed up my game. Yeah, average ground speed, average speed, time in air needs work. Whereas near the ball and average distance to the ball and time spent near the net, these are saying it's great. Here's an example. This might a real human coach might not be so eager to say my time spent near the net is great. It might be more contextual, and we realize that. So there might be a revised system where we try less to call things excellent or poor. But again, we want to hear from people. We want to hear if they're getting insights from this analysis that is insightful to them and is helping. And if it's not, we're going to keep working on it. We'll go back to the drawing board to an extent. So you can do this for positioning, tactics, aerials, defense, and movement. And last but certainly not least is the newest section that we have. It's still a bit quiet in here. We can add more to it. But here we have insights. And the goal of the insights tab is to take all of the myriad things that I've talked about, these many, many stats, and just boil it down further for someone who's like, I ain't got time for that. I am not reading all those stats. Or maybe you are, and you still want these key distilled pieces of info. This is where you're going to find the key takeaways and the key strength and the key weakness and some info about your core playstyle and how it's evolved over a few games. But let's look at the key takeaways. You're excellent at collecting small boost pads. We saw that in the stats. But here I can see that without having to deep dive into those stats, if that's something that I was interested in. This keeps me in the game longer without interruptions for boost. Again, something exactly what I talked about. Efficient playstyle is a word that I used. You're slower at collecting big boost pads. So it is telling me, sure, I'm great at picking up big boost pads, but I actually go slowly to get big boost pads. Improving the timing and route efficiency for big boost will enhance overall gameplay and offensive threats. Some might say, again, something we will fully admit to, some might say that these are almost inverse of each other. That if it's telling me I'm good at getting small boost pads, why is it also telling me I'm bad at getting big boost pads? That's fair criticism and things that we can work on to make these takeaways really shine and make them like, we want these takeaways to be something that you read and get an actual wow moment of like, wow, I did not know that. That's a key piece of insight that I can work on for my next match or next 5 matches that is really exciting to me and gives me something just like a coach would kind of give you something to focus on for that next match. Spend more time on the ground in the offensive half. This is interesting. I spend too much time flying around when I'm on offense. And I actually probably miss opportunities doing too much aerialing in the offensive half. So we can actually drill down and look at stats in particular areas of the field that may be weaknesses or strengths, and kind of find those specific points on the field where I might want to do it. And then a key weakness, back post coverage is really good. A key strength is back post coverage. Key weakness, improve aerial saves. So I'm missing saves when I have to jump or aerial to make them. I will freely admit to that one. That's absolutely true. Good call. Okay, so with all that said, I think that concludes our main tour and walkthrough of the stats. I'll quickly speak to the fact that without giving too much away, one thing that we want to do more of and we want to focus on in the near future is stats and insights that are more relevant to when you did something in a match. And that's also a key piece that we currently don't. Right now, we look at a match in its totality. And something that could be really interesting is saying, hey, you tend to not cover the back post enough in those final minutes of the game. Or here's a very specific moment in the game where you absolutely fell down on your back post coverage, or you fell down on this aerial save. So it could be as fine-grained as a moment, a key highlight, a turning point in the match that it could speak to. Maybe even eventually you can watch that and be able to play it back or interact with it, or at least see some indication of what you did wrong on the field, so that you're not just reading it in text. And I think that could be a really strong direction to head, to be able to give more time-based analysis feedback. But that is something that we'd love to hear from you on. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is this something that you think would actually make the analysis better? Because, as I said, we put a huge amount of focus on what people want out of this product. We don't feel that we necessarily know all the answers to what makes the product serve our customers better, serve our users better, and we want to hear from you. And with that said, I'm going to conclude my stats tour, which has gone on too long already, and we'll open the floor to any more questions if anybody has any. I don't know, Madison, if you have seen more questions come in that are unanswered, or anyone that wants to raise a hand and join the stage. How did everyone find that? And do you have any questions? Scott and Kyle got to most of them. Okay, let me make this bigger so I can read that. Excellent. Yeah, Scott and Kyle are data scientists extraordinaire who I said are fully responsible for building everything you see here and getting all these amazing stats and insights out of just a regular old Rocket League replay file that otherwise. How do we add the overlays? Yeah, good question. So that's the overlays are essentially a packaged version of a few key stats from this dashboard that are sent via an API to Electron. So Electron is the external application that we then use to do overlays on top of the game. Currently, those overlay widgets, as we call them, so each overlay window is built via Electron, and that, again, there's a process happening almost instantaneously where in the pipeline, you send your Rocket League replay off, it's parsed for its relevant data, that is then sent to this web app, but certain stats are also sent via API to Electron in order to pop them up on screen on top of your Rocket League match. And currently, the capability that we have there is only right now for windowed and borderless mode. That's just a restriction of how we can make overlays. However, I don't know if anyone saw the poll we recently have. If not, please go to the poll. Let me go back to my full screen view here. And apologies, my microphone cut out again, of course. We are currently looking into making these overlays work for full screen. And we want to know how willing and excited people are about this feature, and are they willing to give it a try when we sort of release it? Yeah, answer the poll if you haven't already. It gives some more details about how that full screen process will work. And yeah, we want to hear from you. Does that answer your question? Let me know if it didn't. Let me read the chat. Not really about the app, but why did you guys decide to partner with Rocket League Help? Great question. I have been aware of the Rocket League Help server for years. I was a part of Rocket League Help before I even knew what trophi.ai was. We wanted to reach out to a community of what we felt would be like-minded Rocket League players. We have our own Discord server where we, chat with our users, chat with the community that want to talk to us. Yeah, Kyle says they know a lot more about Rocket League than we do. It's also true. But yeah, we thought that Rocket League Help was just a really great fit and an alignment of core values for what we're doing, which is trying to provide learning resources to the Rocket League community and make it accessible for people and make getting better at the game easier to access. And we have people from the Rocket League Help community that are very active on our Discord. That is how the connection was made. And we started talking to some coaches from here. The conversations kind of kept happening and kept working up the line until we were chatting with Lazord and Laugh, who are here. And we thought it was just an excellent fit that Rocket League Help is a community all about providing resources, making learning accessible to Rocket League players, and fostering a culture of like-minded players that want to take the game seriously to an extent. They want to keep it fun, obviously, but they want to get better. That's the key thing. And that's the exact type of people that we want to cater to. Just checking the chat here, doing this awkward reading messages as they come in. So it's not really available yet. Which feature are you referring to there? Full screen overlays is not available just yet. It's coming. It's being worked on. Full screen overlays is not currently, but windowed and borderless are up and running. You can use them today. Awesome, guys. Well, I'll hang out for a minute if anybody has questions, but if not, appreciate your time. Is there any other questions, or do people feel good with what we've covered here? Also, I will say we want to do more of these. So if you want the next topic to be a certain thing, or have specific things you want to learn more about, let us know, and we'll probably make that the next topic, the next thing that we talk about. We could certainly go through the AI coaching and the AI lessons. There's lots to show there. That's kind of fun, because then I'm actually playing Rocket League and doing very poor air dribbles and having the coach comment on them, etc. Thanks, Kyle. That's the download instructions are posted there if anyone's interested. With that said, I don't think it looks like there's any other questions. So I think I will probably sign off. You love the app. Appreciate that. That's awesome to hear. The app is going to keep getting better, guys, too. I can't stress that enough. Glad to hear positive things, but also very willing to hear constructive criticism, because we're working on lots of things to make this app even better than it is today. And we're going to keep going with it and hopefully really make something that's a powerful learning platform for you guys. So can you do the app on the full screen? You can do, so the web app is what we're looking at today, which is game analysis. This is entirely web-based, so you can make it full screen just like you would any web browser. The Trophy app is run via Unity. This does not go full screen currently. You can resize it slightly, but it's a little small now. I hear you on that. I don't disagree. We will bring that to our platform team. Our platform team handles any and all feature suggestions and requests regarding the app itself. And we'll certainly mention that you can go to settings if you weren't aware, and graphics. You can change the resolution and make it a little bigger. Let's see if that goes bigger. Yeah, you can make it a little bigger. It's not quite full screen, but that's what we have currently. Yeah. Okay, folks. Yeah, thank you for your time. We really appreciate you listening, and we're going to do this again soon. Very thankful to the audience for joining us, and yeah, have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye-bye.